Okay, so hello everyone. Welcome to our winter virtual open house. As you're joining us today, we'll just wait a couple minutes. I see your name numbers are kind of stabilizing. If you're here for biology and conservation biology, then you're in the right spot. If you're not here for that session, that's totally okay. You can go to our open house website and check out all our sessions happening today as well. Also, I'd like to mention too, just while you're entering, it's going to mute everyone upon entry. Just for that, if you do have questions relating to biology and conservation biology, you can type it in at the bottom of our session there. So the Q&A feature right there. Again, we're going to be focusing on questions related to these programs. So if you have general missions questions, we'd love to help out, but sometimes our live chats are better for that. So if you go back to our open house website, you can totally check that out as well, and they'd be happy to help you there. But before we get started, let me introduce myself. My name is Ryan. I'll be the moderator of the session. With me today, I have Professor Gary Burness, and I have two students in biology as well, Haley and Michaela. I'm so excited to be doing this session as I graduated with my biology major as I was here at Trent, and I actually did my health specialization as well. So that's something I got to do during my time here. Also, I just want to add too that we're excited for the path you have ahead of you and look forward to all the reasons Trent University has been ranked the #1 undergrad university for 11 consecutive years in Ontario. As I mentioned, for those students who are just joining us, you can ask questions during this session. It's just that short Q&A box right at the bottom there, and you can type your questions in there. We'll get to them in a minute, and we have a Q&A section at the end of the presentation too, where we can look at all of them. But again, we're really going to be answering questions related to biology and conservation biology. Emissions questions and other questions such as entry are great for our live chats. This presentation is offered in closed captioning, so to enable closed captioning, please select the three dots at the bottom right of your screen and select show subtitles. On our events page, as I mentioned, we have those live chats happening today. So you can drop into one of those or whichever one makes sense and have your questions answered. Or you can go to our little chat box just on our open house webpage, as I've been talking about a lot. But with that, let's get started with our presentation. And you've probably heard enough from me. I'm going to pass it on to Professor Gary Burness to share a little bit about himself.
Oh, about myself. I didn't expect that. Okay, so I'm the chair of biology. What I wanted to do right now, though, is just to give you a quick overview of the biology program, I guess, and also the conservation biology program. So biology is actually one of the most popular undergrad programs at Trent, and probably part of the reason for that is we're ranked now within the top 20 nationally for biology programs, and we're one of only 2 undergrad universities that are ranked within that top 20. So we're doing quite well there. And so hopefully, if you decide to come to do a biology degree here, what we find is that students do one of 2 different kinds of biology undergrads at Trent. One is a Bachelor of Science in Biology, and the other one is a Bachelor of Science in Conservation Biology. We have actually another one too called a Biomedical Sciences degree, but that's covered by a separate session. So we'll just talk today about the Bachelor of Science in Biology, Bachelor of Science in Conservation Biology. So most students do a single major honors in biology. Okay, that's a 4-year degree. You focus on taking biology courses. Now, within that biology degree, that 4-year Bachelor of Science honors degree in biology, we offer 2 specializations. So we offer a specialization in health sciences. And so that's for students who are interested in more health-related careers, say medicine or dentistry, physiotherapy, that kind of thing. And we also offer a specialization in conservation biology as part of that biology degree. So if you were interested in conservation, you want to do a 4-year Bachelor of Science honors in biology, you can do that specialization too. Now, a distinct feature of that specialization opportunity in conservation biology is you have the opportunity to do a placement with a collaborating agency like the Royal Ontario Museum or the Toronto Zoo, for example. Okay, so that, which I've just described, is a 4-year Bachelor of Science honors in biology. Now, in addition to that degree, we offer a separate degree which is a Bachelor of Science in Conservation Biology. And Haley will talk maybe a little bit about that, only because she's actually in that program. Okay, so this is distinct from the BSc in biology. You apply directly to the degree, so it's actually quite competitive. So it's more competitive than the regular biology degree. There's far fewer students in it, though, because there's a limited number of spots. Now, there are 2 versions of this Bachelor of Science in Conservation Biology. There's 2 versions of this degree. In one of them, there's a placement option, so you can work for 6 hours per week over a period of a year. Or there's a co-op option, okay, and that one has 3 paid work terms that are scattered throughout your degree too. Okay, so to summarize, we have this Bachelor of Science honors degree in which you can do a specialization in health sciences or a specialization in conservation biology. And we have a separate degree called a Bachelor of Science honors in conservation biology in which you could do a placement or you could do a co-op option. And that Bachelor of Science in Conservation Biology is a direct entry degree. So you say, I'd like to do that. And you apply directly to that when you first apply to Trent. Okay, so that's hopefully going to give you a little bit of an idea about the kind of degrees that we offer here. Okay, Ryan, do you anything else to add, or are you good for now?
No, I think that's amazing. I think you summed it up perfectly. There's kind of a lot of options, and it's almost, I think that was the perfect explanation as well. And I know one question a lot of students have coming in is with those specializations, do they have to pick those when they first apply to Trent University? And the answer to that, if you want to give it away, or
no.
Yeah,
No, I
exactly.
mean, I don't mind not giving it away. I mean, there's nothing to give away. No, you don't, is the answer. You don't have to
Perfect.
know what you're doing. Just come in and take some courses. Basically, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess that kind of goes into our next question I have here is what types of courses and labs can students expect to take in their first year? And how does that change as students progress through their program?
Yeah, that's a good question. So basically, students, whether in conservation biology or in the regular general Bachelor of Science honors in biology, students come into the same courses in first year in biology. So you will in the fall, if you hopefully come here in the fall, you will be registered in a course called Foundations of Biodiversity. And it's going to talk about ecology, biodiversity, and evolution. Okay, it's a first year course. You all will take it. And in the winter, we have another one called Foundations of Cellular and Molecular Biology. Okay, again, you will all take that one. So these courses are designed to give you a taste of the kind of topics you're going to experience later on as you progress through your degree. Okay, so in second year then, you'll get a little more specialized. So you may take a course in cell biology or genetics or ecology or evolution. Those are all separate courses now. When you get, and oh, one thing I should mention is for anybody who's doing the for anybody who's doing the Bachelor of Science in Conservation Biology, you have a separate course that only you get to take, and it's called Communicating Conservation Biology. And this is a really interesting one because it's got an emphasis on writing and speaking, particularly to non-specialized audiences. And because there's so few students, you get a lot of experience practicing this kind of communication with non-specialized audiences about conservation. So that's a unique course there. Okay, but that's only open to people in that Bachelor of Science in Conservation. So when you move into third year and fourth year, you take more and more specialized courses. So if you're interested in health, for example, maybe you'll take epidemiology or pathophysiology of disease. And if you're interested in more ecology, for example, maybe you'll take behavioral ecology, which is like animal behavior, or maybe an advanced ecology course. And then finally, when you get to fourth year, the end of your degree, which seems like a long way away, but it moves fast. When you get to fourth year, you have the opportunity to do an independent research project with a faculty supervisor. Many students publish their theses, which is a great booster on your resume. Okay, and also you get to know faculty quite well, so they can write you effective reference letters for whatever you choose to do next. Okay, and so that's kind of good too. Okay, so you start off really broad and you get more and more specialized as you go through your degree, but you'll all be doing the same courses in first year. Okay.
That's awesome. And yeah, I can totally relate to it's just graduating and having biology in my first year. And when you get more specialized in your upper years, it's very exciting because you start to discover, oh, I really like this part of biology and this is what I want to go into. And then maybe that's when you add on that specialization as well, or you start looking into those topics, which is a really unique way that Trent does it here. Okay, so that kind of goes into our next question too. So I'll pass on to you first, Professor Paness, but what experiential learning opportunities have you found most valuable in the program?
Okay, so in most of our courses, and this is including first year too, we have weekly or bi-weekly lab exercises. So depending on which course you're in, it may be weekly, it may be bi-weekly. So right from first year, you will be doing hands-on work in various labs, whether it's ecology or evolution or cellular molecular biology, you'll be doing some sort of hands-on stuff. As you move through the degree, so for example, our molecular biology courses, you'll be learning how to pipette, how to isolate DNA, you'll learn various other molecular biology techniques as well. In our more ecologically oriented courses, you'll go outside in the field and collect some data. So for example, in our limnology course, which is trying to understand how waters and rivers and things like that work, you'll be out in boats sampling water out in various lakes. In our fish ecology course, a fish biology course, we collect fish in nets. So you're actually in chest waders out in the river collecting fish there. In the invertebrate biology course, you collect insects in the winter, which requires you to drill through the ice on these little stormwater ponds. I mean, they're only like waist deep, so you're not going to fall in and get hurt or anything, but you do get to do that. And so that, again, is happening outside. So you're getting these hands-on experiences all the time. And like I said as well, in first year, you have labs right away. So your first lab, as far as I know, in first year, you'll be outside straight away, hopefully weather permitting. Okay. Further, we're also members of what's called the Ontario University Program in Field Biology. And so this provides opportunities for students to do field courses. And then an important one, which some of you might not be aware of, is that we have a government ministry on campus. It's called the Ministry of Northern Development, Mines, Natural Resources, and Forestry. And they're actually based out of Peterborough. It's a provincial ministry. And many of their researchers are on the Trent campus in the Life and Health Sciences building. I mention this because they provide summer employment opportunities too. And many of them are adjunct with biology. And so there is the opportunity to meet them too. And then finally, in fourth year, I guess there's hands-on opportunities because you can do an honors thesis as well. And like I said before, we can, as faculty, get to know you quite well and write reference letters for you as well. Okay, so you have opportunities right through every single year, largely because we have these hands-on labs that we do really well, I think, to be honest. Okay.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I remember in my first year, my first lab, the biology department did that where we actually head outside right away. And I was like, I called my parents that day. It's like, oh yeah, I got to do my lab outside right on campus here at Trent. And it was a really hands-on, unique experience as well. With that, I would be curious what you find interesting about experiential learning opportunities, Michaela and Haley. And I'll pass it on to you first, Michaela, if you just want to give us a brief overview of what year you're in, what program you're doing within the biology, and then experiential learning opportunities you found really useful.
So I'm in my fourth year of my biology degree, and I have a specialization in health sciences. An experiential learning opportunity that I'm currently doing is my undergraduate thesis project. I'm doing an independent thesis project investigating screen time and nutrition in undergraduate students, and we're actually discussing publication now. So.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool, especially screen time at this day and age is a really unique topic as well. And then I'll pass it on to you, Haley.
Hello, everyone. My name is Haley, and I'm a second-year student in the Conservation Biology with Co-op program. So, of course, my experiential learning has to do with the co-op because it's just an amazing opportunity. I get to work with one of my professors this year up in Manitoba and do hands-on research with collecting birds, taking samples, tagging them. I'll be outside all day hiking around Manitoba Churchill and just living in nature and getting really crucial experience on research-based opportunities that I can use for my entire career henceforward. And like Gary said, I love the labs here. They're so hands-on, they're really crucial for my learning, and I've used skills from my labs that I've put forward to use in interviews to get job opportunities and offers in the real world. So I've already seen so much from Trent benefit my career, and I'm only in my second year.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, such a unique learning opportunity as well. And you mentioned jobs as well, and that ties into this question coming up. For you, Professor Vanessa, what type of jobs do you see students moving into after graduation?
Okay, I don't think Trent is unique in this particular position. I mean, it sounds strange to say it like this, but I think that what I'm going to say probably applies to pretty much anybody doing a biology degree, whether you come to Trent, whether you go elsewhere. I mean, the reality is, I think when you finish a degree, some students do choose to find jobs directly out of their degree, and that other ones go on to more specialized degrees. And so something we have seen, certainly at Trent here, a common job that I've seen is students, if they do choose to do a job afterwards in a biology related field, they'll often become a lab technician, for example, or a research assistant for a variety of different kinds of employers. And so just as some examples of students from Trent that I know of, one of them I know is a genetic lab technician. Another one is a GIS technician, which involves creating and analyzing maps. And another one is actually a policy officer with the provincial government. Now, actually, each of those examples I just gave you are associated with a government ministry, the one that I mentioned that's on campus. Okay, so they probably, if I remember, they probably would have done their fourth year theses associated with one of those researchers through that ministry and then wound up using that as a foot in the door. Okay, so that's something that actually is unique to Trent to be able to do that. Okay, so one of the benefits, like I said, though, is that you do get to know your faculty at Trent who can actually provide you with career advice as well. So some students do get jobs directly out of the degree because that's what they want to do. Many, though, to be fair, do go on to subsequent more specialized degrees. So for example, maybe occupational therapy or physiotherapy or medical school, vet school, dentistry, these kind of things. So some students become more specialized, and other ones might go and do a master's of science too. They do an honors thesis, they realize, I really like this research stuff, and they go and do a master's of science, and then maybe then they become a biologist for Environment Canada or work for an environmental consulting company. So I guess in summary, then some students do get jobs directly out of their degree, and other ones choose to go on to more specialized careers. There's no right or wrong way, and there's no one thing fits everybody, right? So it's a bit hard to predict at this time what you'll choose to do, basically.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned too is how much you get to work with your professors, and that's a common misconception is when you come to universities that professors don't want you to succeed, and that's the total opposite. So many professors I had helped me and realized what job I wanted to go into after as well, and they want to work with you, and they've done a lot of the research too, so they can definitely guide you in the right direction as well, which is amazing.
Actually, can I just add one extra thing, Ryan? Because this happened last year. Yeah, last year. So I was teaching the first year course last winter, and there was one student in that class who always asked questions. Okay, so don't be fearful of asking questions. And I got to know her name. And then last summer, on really short notice, we needed to hire a field assistant. And so basically, I remembered her name because she'd asked questions. I fired her an email, and we hired her to do field work with us for 3 weeks. And it was just because she was free. She was able to do it. When I say free, I mean, we paid her, but she was available to work. And I knew her name from first year because she asked questions. So I was able to contact her, and she ended up working at our research group for 3 weeks last summer. So make sure you contact your professors because they're quite happy to hear from you, and they're quite happy to chat with you about whatever you want to talk about, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, so I just wanted to tell that story because that's directly relevant here.
Yeah, it's totally true. And I remember, it's so funny you brought that up because I remember my first year, I was really nervous to ask questions. And then the more I got to know my professors, I thought that's so silly because you should ask any questions you have. And the more questions you have, other students have them too. And it can really help you learn when you come to Trent too, which it is great. Okay, so moving on to our next question. And this one is in particular this year. So how did course delivery work this year? Are students in person or virtual?
And this is actually a fairly quick one. So for the month of January, because the university was remote at that point, so classes were online. So that it was actually like this, to be honest. But to be honest, it was actually pretty good because there was a lot of interaction through the chat. And so there was a lot of, it was actually a really interesting way to do it. So that was only for the month of January. And then after that, most classes are back face-to-face again, and the labs are back face-to-face. I mean, students are masked for following public health guidelines, but they're in physical classes, they're in physical labs. So it's not remote right now, it's back face-to-face. Yeah, hopefully that'll be the case in September too.
Yeah, and the good news is Trent's about a medium-sized university. So we have around 10,000 undergraduates at our Peterborough campus, 2,000 at our Durham GTA campus. If you're thinking biology, you'll be headed to Peterborough. But with a size like that, we have opportunities with seminars or labs where you have smaller sizes, especially during this time of the year, which is awesome as well. Okay, how many students, and this is more of an admission one, but typically I think Professor Burness touched on this already as well, but if you could just touch a little bit on those first year classes and then your fourth year classes too. So how the sizes go, and you kind of mentioned how the first year classes are a little bit bigger, but how's that work for students coming in who are nervous about these bigger class sizes?
I mean, I know the numbers, the size of the classes. So our classes will, from a high school student's perspective, a class of 200 people or 250 people seems absolutely enormous. But it's relative to other first year classes at other universities. So 200 students sounds like a lot, but it actually is not 500 students, right? So it's a smaller number. The important thing here is that even though you might be in a lecture theater, which is, like a movie theater with, say, 150, 200 students, the following week, when you go to a lab, you're actually, there's 20 of you, say, or 25 of you. So the numbers suddenly drop down because you have all these different labs. You'll be with a much smaller group at that point, right? So the class where you're sitting for lectures is moderately large, not as big as other places, but moderately large. But then we're down to 20, 25, and then fourth year is obviously way smaller than that. It'll be like 20, 25 in the class, right? So that's very different. But those are just the numbers. I mean, you might want to ask the students in terms of how they perceive those numbers.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great idea. So I'll pass it on to you, Michaela, especially being a fourth year student.
Yeah, so as a student that's always been interested in health sciences, what drew me most to this program was its course availability. For every topic that I was interested in learning more about, I've never had a problem finding a class that covered it. The curriculum is so broad, so I've always been able to venture into other avenues, such as conservation biology, and this has introduced me to some unique concepts that I never would have imagined, venturing on my own, such as behavioral ecology. Um, the curriculum is definitely challenging, but it's prepared me for a career in biology after Trent. I'm interested in furthering my education at a graduate level. And although I'm interested in public health, I feel confident taking this route, like simply because the courses I've taken have provided me with so much knowledge and skill-based learning opportunities. For example, I've always loved biology, but I've hated labs. Um, and this changed once I took up new pathways, and now doing field work or handling tricky lab equipment is something I'm much more comfortable with. And also, now that I'm in my fourth year, while I've come to appreciate conservation bio, health sciences are a bit more important to me. So I've chosen to focus on that, and I still have so many courses to choose from. I also really appreciate just how supportive faculty members are. I know we touched on it a bit, but I've had so many positive classroom experiences, and I feel as though our department really cares about the undergraduate student experience. In my fourth year, we definitely have smaller class sizes. I've taken some classes of no more than 20 people. And this is really an important aspect to me because it allows me to connect more with my professors and collaborate more with other students. The professors that I've met also really do love teaching, and this makes coursework so much more enjoyable. So as I progressed through my degree at Trent, it became really easy to find links between various courses. So it's really just satisfying to see it all come together. And I'm still getting to understand the big picture, but what I love most about this is that it's possible with really great teachers. So yeah.
Yeah, that's true, and it's a good experience to have gone it all through 4 years and then be here where you are now. And then I'll pass it on to you, Haley, as well. Being in that program, maybe you can touch on how taking that class has worked, in particular, the size of the conservation biology and all that.
Yeah, so I have two different types of class sizes. My general first year, which is around 200 to 250 students, and then conservation bio specific ones that are more like 20 people. And they're two completely different environments, but I feel comfortable in both now. I'll be honest, it's daunting walking into a room full of 200, 250 other people and sitting down and just listening and trying to take it all in. But what I found helpful is to not shy away from getting in contact with your professors. They really do want to see you succeed and they really do want to help you. And teaching assistants too is something that I didn't know that much about until I came to Trent. But usually each course has a few dedicated teaching assistants for the students. And they will also help you with projects, assignments. There are resources on campus you can go to help get tutoring or study groups or advice. And there's always office hours for every single professor that you can go and talk to them if you don't understand the material. So just persevere, you'll get through it. I think adaptation is really the key word, but as long as you keep a positive mindset, I'm sure you guys will all do fantastic.
It's totally true, yeah. And I know I was the student who always had so many questions, and when you're in those labs, that breaks those bigger groups into smaller groups too, which is important to know as well. It might be a big class size you walk into in that first year because a lot of people are taking biology as well as a foundation for other courses, and those lab sizes really break it down. And you usually have two TAs, and my professor was sometimes even in my lab. So you had a lot of people and resources helping you about, and I never had my hand up for longer than a minute, I would say, if not 30 seconds, which is incredible. And it's such a good feeling here at Trent University too. That makes me want to ask our next question to you, Haley and Michaela. And you kind of touched on it too a little bit. What advice do you have for a student planning to study biology program at Trent? And I'll pass on to you first, Michaela.
My biggest piece of advice, you should definitely get to know your professors. They're very knowledgeable and they really do want to help. When I was trying to kind of figure out what I was interested in doing once I wrapped up my degree here, I was always able to talk to professor and understand their pathway and get some more advice. And this has played a really big role in the recent choices I've made. And if you build a bigger network, it's also more easy. It's also easier to find more experiential learning opportunities. I've gotten to volunteer in labs and learn more about ongoing faculty research and graduate student research. And this is only possible because I made sure that my professors knew who I was and that they knew me and vice versa. And I've also had no problem asking for reference letters, which has been super important as I'm in the process of applying to graduate and professional schools. And also, as we've mentioned before, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Biology can be tough at times. So if you need to better develop your studying approach or test taking skills, talk to your other classmates, professors, even academic skills. The support's there, but you definitely need to take the step to ask for help. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. And then I'll pass on to you, Haley, as well.
My advice might seem a little outrageous from a high school perception, but I like to finish my assignments at least a week in advance. Let me tell you why. Because if you start an assignment a week in advance, just at least trying to finish as much as you can gives you the opportunity to reach out to professors, TAs, get to office hours. You can even go to academic advice where they can sometimes proofread your papers and help you with citations. And I find that that was a major grade booster in my first year. I could bump up my grades from like a 70 on a paper to a 90 just by doing it so far in advance, because you can talk to professors, TAs, even peers about how your work is going, if you have any concerns or questions, and it allows you to really take in the material, put it out, and then come back to it later with a fresh view, read it over, and then say, oh, maybe this paragraph was weaker than the others, or maybe I should go on this topic a bit more.
Awesome. I totally agree. That's amazing advice as well. And then with that, I haven't seen any questions pop in too much, but a question for you, Professor Burness. If students want to be in touch, what's the best contact for them to use?
I'm going to actually get them to email me directly, which it's not meant to sound intimidating, but since I'm here and you've all met me, you know, you can put a face to a name. So I'm going to put my email address in the chat. And then if you have questions, like literally just send me an email and I will answer it. If you could do me a favor though, maybe just remind me that you're here, right? So that just gives some context to the email. So I don't think, who's this from? Because I do get a lot of emails, but you know, introduce yourself, tell me you were here, and then we can chat about whatever you want. Okay, so let me just put it in the chat. That way you have it.
Awesome. And yeah, thank you. That's amazing too, that students will be reaching out to you directly. So again, I don't see any questions coming in. So hopefully that means we did an awesome job and that we had all your questions answered. I see your email there too. So you can message that. If you have any other questions throughout today too, as we're running out of time, you can quickly pop them in there, or there's other resources too. So you have Carrie Burness's email. You also have the admissions chat we talked about earlier today too. Nicholas just popped in our general questions chat too. So discover Trent at trentu.ca or discover Trent Durham at trentu.ca as well, which would be great resources for any students who have any questions. I just want to take a moment and thank the members of our panelists, so Michaela and Haley and Professor Burness. It's always amazing talking to fellow biology students and professors, and I just have a love and passion for it, and I see it on you as well, and it's just amazing. So it's really nice for students coming in. The session has been recorded, so it'll be posted on our open house webpage if you wish to review it, anything we talked about today, and you can check that out. And I want to invite you to come visit our campus. So we're hosting in-person tours as well as spring open house later in April. You can register today or join us for an on-campus event. So we have those tours going on. We have a lot of tours actually happening in March break, so be sure to check that out as well. Yeah, so no questions popping in. Again, thank you so much for everyone who joined us today. And yeah, we hope you enjoy the rest of open house today.